Let's talk about something really quick. If I asked you what worked in your business in 2025, would you be able to answer immediately or you're just going to guess? Because what I often find is that smart, capable entrepreneurs are falling victim to guessing what actually worked in their business because they're avoiding looking at the information and data inside of their business. And this is especially true for those of us in the event industry. You may be ending 2025 or starting 2026 extremely tired, exhausted, burnt out, and even proud of what you have been able to accomplish in 2025, which I'm so proud of you for having the ability to make it through another year. But the problem is that you may not actually know what made you money inside of your business, what was draining your time, or why you're not sticking to your goals year after year. And when January comes around, you're grabbing a new planner, setting this great vision, creating all the vision boards and big goals, and find yourself repeating the same cycle year after year. And that is not how a CEO moves. Today, I'm going to be taking you through a end of year reset that most entrepreneurs are skipping. And we're going to dig into why skipping this is actually costing you the growth and success that you truly desire inside of your business, because you deserve to have peace and the profit that you're desiring inside of your company. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you a simple framework that will allow for you to reflect on what worked inside of your business and help you with setting a solid foundation to start the year with clarity and get those results. So we're not going to be doing any fluff, any talk about manifesting things, just real conversations about the real data inside of your business so you can make some real decisions. So let's dig into why most end of year resets do not work. Here's the truth. Most entrepreneurs do not take the time to actually reflect in their business to know what actually worked. Instead, they find themselves making these emotional decisions or looking at their left and their right to be able to decide if they are supposed to be doing something just because they're watching others. And they find themselves saying some of these same things. Oh, this year was so busy. This year was so chaotic. I feel like I worked so hard. Next year, I'm going to be more disciplined. Different variations of those very words. But feelings don't lead to solid decisions. And I know that you're a great business owner, but you cannot run your business off of vibes and feelings. You have to know what the real data is inside of your business, because real CEOs, they are looking at the numbers, their systems, their capacity, and where they're allocating the energy to do their day-to-day activities. So if you find yourself skipping the reflection and just jumping right into the next year, you're just going to be putting new goals over the old problems. So let's fix that today. So I want to give you a 4-part framework that's going to help you having better understanding as to what worked in your business and what you're going to be doing in the years to come. Here's where it's going to be a challenge for you, because we're going to be looking at our business as an operator, not someone that's hustling, not someone that's doing all the things. And this is not only for full-time business owners. You can apply this inside of your business, even if you're doing it as a part-time or side hustle. How much time you put inside of operating your business does not have to be a reflection of how you run it and how you're treating it. If you're treating your business like it's a hustle, you won't make the time to actually reflect because you're just trying to make a buck. But if you're really trying to have something that's going to make it past 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to need to do this. So the first part is that you want to take time to review your operating expenses. I personally just did this a couple of weeks ago, because what can sometimes happen is we'll have one subscription that went up $10 and we're just thinking like, oh, it was only $10. But the subscription used to cost $5. That $10 increase is not just a little increase. If you're having multiple subscriptions that are going up from monthly, quarterly, or annually, you'll find that those little things are going to creep up and cost you when it comes to understanding your gross profit and your net profit. So you want to take the time to review your operating expenses and just start with the first question of, where did my money actually go? And I find that inside of our business and industries, it can be very easy to be like, oh, I got paid $1,000. I got paid $10,000. But how much money is going out? So you need to think to yourself, where is my money actually going? And I don't want you to just think about it. I want you to pull out the numbers to do this. So I want you to pull up your bank statements. Hopefully, we're using platforms like QuickBooks that make this a little bit easier, but start with your bank statements. And I will make sure to have a link so that those of you that have not tried QuickBooks and are not using something for bookkeeping, I am going to recommend that to you. First and foremost, I know we're talking about cutting back on our expenses, but we're losing money when we're not having efficiencies inside of our business. So get QuickBooks. So I want for you to run reports to be able to figure out how much are your software subscriptions costing. So for those of you that rent spaces or office spaces, you need to keep track of how much you're spending on an annual basis for any compliance or insurance, how much you're spending on marketing for those of you that are using ads. Any tools that you're using inside of running your business, it doesn't matter how big or small. I want for you to have a true understanding of how much it actually takes for you to run your business. And you might be very surprised as to what that number is when you take the time to actually look. And what I find sometimes too is that I may had subscribed to a subscription, but when I take the time to do this really every year, then I'll sit here and think like, okay, do I really need to have the subscription? Is it just because I haven't actually started implementing it, or am I using something else to replace it? But you really want to have an understanding of how much it actually truly costs for you to run your business, because that's going to help us with laying a foundation for the next steps inside of this. So you may find opportunities to free up some cash flow on unnecessary expenses, or you might find that you're spending more than what you actually are aware of, especially for those of you that have surplus at the end of the year because of holiday party season. It's great. But what happens is that we find ourselves spending more on things that we shouldn't be spending on. So I want for you to take the time to write out what are your operating expenses. And I like to think of this in two different ways. One is how much does it cost for you to actually run your business? This is going to be our subscriptions, our venues, any office supplies. That's going to be in our operating expenses. Even like an assistant, those are part of our operating expenses. But I also want for you to see how much are you spending on you actually even executing your services. So those of you that are caterers, how much are you spending on food and those things? Again, we need to know our numbers because we're going to take our emotions out of this. We're just going to look at the data. And once you do that, I want for you to actually think to yourself, what expenses are actually helping you to create revenue, or is it just out of comfort or laziness? Just take time, write it out, and just be honest as to what's going on inside of your company. All right, before we go further in this video, I just want to say, if you're watching this and thinking, I've never reviewed my business like this, that's actually what my strategy sessions are designed for. We look at your numbers, your systems, and your offers together. So you're not guessing going into the new year. I'll make sure to have the QR code and the link so that you're able to check out my strategy sessions. But for now, keep watching because the next part matters. The second part is now we're going to review our profit margin, not just your revenue, because I always see people talking about my company made 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, or we made 7 figures, but we're not talking about profit. And honestly, we need to be having more conversations on profit because you want to know what you're actually able to keep inside of your business. And let's be honest, there's a lot of people out here on Instagram just talking about revenue and they're throwing out these lifestyles, but the profit is how you're able, your gross profit is how you're able to actually afford your operating expenses, for you to pay taxes, for you to actually have money to reinvest back into your business, as well as for you to pay your salary. So it's great to say my company made 6 figures, but how much did it actually actually take for you to run your business. So that's why we start with the first step. We have to get clarity. How much is it actually taking for me to run my business? So once we do know that, this is why we now need to start focusing on our profit and our profit margins. This is why I always recommend having platforms that help you with making this easier, because if you don't have this may be a heavy lift for you. I'm not going to lie, because if you're just doing calculators and paper and pen and you're not organized, this video may be a heavy lift. So this is why, if you're not doing it yet and you're watching this at the beginning of 2026, take heed of everything I'm saying today so that you can start implementing it going into next year, or maybe into the second quarter of this year. I want for you to ask yourself, what was my actual profit margin? And the way that you can figure out your gross profit, this is going to be your revenue minus the supplies for you to execute your services. This is not your actual operating expense. So let's say you're a caterer and you price at a 50% margins. So if you got paid $1,000 and it costs you $500 to get the groceries, that means your gross profit on that event was $500. So I want for you to have clarity on how much am I having as a profit margin on me actually executing my services. Then I want for you to start to review which offers made you money. This is important because I find that people fall victim of like, "Oh, I got to offer all these things and all these offerings." And then you have all these different things that you're offering that only a handful of people actually request from you on an annual basis. So you want to find out and if you're using the right system, it should tell you what types of services are people coming to me more for, what type of service, and what are the main packages that they're purchasing from you. Again, I hope that you have a system that's allowing for you to do this. If not, please don't skip this. Do not skip this, because this is what's going to allow for you to go into the next steps. So we're going to take time to figure out what's our profit margin. Then we're going to talk about which offers we had made and which offers looked good but underpaid you. And underpaid you are going to be things that just didn't have the great profit margins. They may be things that look great, but if you're not going to be making what you really need to be making to run your business, because ultimately, I know numbers may not be the best for people. Doing platforms and using systems may not be the best for everyone. I get that. But the thing about it is that you really got to lean into this. And I don't like to say you got to do anything or you should be doing anything. I highly recommend for you to take the time to do this, because it's going to help you of understanding what's really working in your business, what is profitable. Because if you're doing something and a lot of people are booking it, but your profit margins are trash, it's time to change that. So I want for you to be able to make sure that you are doing things that are going to allow for your doors to stay open. I find that most businesses are not closing because the person isn't talented. It's because they're avoiding this. They're not having profitable businesses. The only way that you know if it's profitable is by looking at this information. So don't fall victim to what a lot of entrepreneurs fall victim to. They find themselves extremely busy, but they're not scaling or growing a profitable business. Because at the end of the day, growth without margins is just going to be organizing burnout. And this is why I do recommend for you to not only do this section, I don't recommend you only just doing it one time a year. This is going to probably be something that you should be analyzing, if not every quarter, but at least twice a year. But I'm not going to be, don't fight me on this, but I'm just going to recommend you do this at least twice a year, especially how things are inflating. And this is why you want to use platforms like HoneyBook and QuickBooks, or if it's not HoneyBook, you're using some other CRM. I don't care. Just use a CRM that allows for you to pull this data with ease so that you're not avoiding it because it's so much of a headache to find out these answers. So the third step now is kind of like a branch off of the second one, where I'm going to recommend for you to review your most popular products and services, because we're going to talk about demand. When it's talking about demand, this is going to help you of understanding what true capacity you have inside of your business to execute these services. This is why we already looked at how much it's costing us to run our business. We're looking at our profit margins, and now we're going to be looking at what are the most popular things that people are booking us for. This is where you're going to be looking at what sold the most, what booked the fastest, and what required the least convincing. This is important because this is how we're going to set up our structure for 2026 and then 2027 and 2028. It may sound great to have all of these options, but if these things are not going to produce real profit dollars inside of our business, then why are we doing it? And the thing is that popularity is not data. Looking as if we're super busy, but we're not making the profit we're needing, that is not going to keep your doors open. So it's important to remember that your best offers tell you what your market is already voting for and that they're really truly desiring inside of your business. But here's the caveat of it is that if something sold well, but it drained you, that might be a system issue. And if something barely sold, that can very well be a positioning issue. So it's important to make sure that we know what people are requiring and requesting from a capacity issue. Because if you're not enjoying what you're building, then why build something? I don't think everything needs to be a passion project, but I definitely think it should be making sense financially, especially when it comes to your numbers. So this is where audits are key. Major corporations have people that all they do is audit efficiencies and profitability, and you want to be able to do this yourself. If you're not quite sure how to go about doing this, I do offer strategy sessions and audits, and this will help you with understanding where you may be potentially having gaps inside of your business, and being able to have the support from me to help you with being able to navigate this. And the best part about working with someone, even if it's not myself, is that it's always great to have outside eyes to be like, this needs to happen. Because sometimes when we're so attached to it, we can sometimes underprice ourselves, talk ourselves out of making the changes that are necessary for us to have what we truly want in our business. So I do recommend you talking to someone that is not you to be able to just go over some of your info to be able to understand what's really working and what's not. Okay, so we have all of the data that we need to have as of right now, if you've done steps 1 through 3. And I hope that you aren't just watching this, pause this, come back to it, do this, DM me, comment on this video, because you don't want to skip 1 through 3. Because this is what's going to help you of understanding what we need to be doing in step 4. Which step 4, we're going to be doing a true real life SWOT analysis. If you've never heard of a SWOT analysis, it's about your strength, weaknesses, and threats. And for those of you that have never had to do this before, don't fret. Don't get too overwhelmed. You'll get better with it as you continue to explore this and start to really embrace this. Because when we allow the data to help us with making decisions, you remove your emotions out of it and you do the things that the results are showing inside of your business. I do want to give you some examples for each one of these. Take out a piece of pen and paper and just write this out in squares. And I'll make sure to have like a pop up where it shows like what a diagram it looks like. And I'll actually even put in description if I can find like a free template, I'll put one there for you to just go ahead and do it. And so when you're talking about your strengths, I want for you to look at what are you genuinely good at? Like what are you amazing at? Your team is able to do well. If it's just you, something that you're able to do really well. So if this is with handling clients, if it's with social media, if it's marketing, set a timer for at least a minute, 2 minutes max, and just brainstorm. It helps with avoiding overthinking everything. So I'm big on setting timers. So set 2 minute timer so you can get this done. Once you do that, now we're going to go to the W part, which is our weaknesses. What are the things that are breaking your systems, boundaries, and capacities? Those are your weaknesses. So maybe it might be not enough team members. Maybe it might be that you don't have a website. Whatever your weaknesses are, set the timer for 2 minutes so that you can just, without any judgments, put things out on paper to understand, because some of those things that might be weaknesses can be potential goals or milestones you put inside of your business for the future. So do not skip this part. When we talk about opportunities, this is to me an exciting part because it allows for you to think to yourself, what trends, referrals, or repeat work that shows up inside of your business. Set your timer for 2 minutes. Like, this is a time where you can say, inside of my industry, I see that more people are looking for this. There might be opportunities because there's a venue that you may be working with often. It might be a partnership opportunity. Again, I just want for you to take the time to just allow for yourself to be excited about what can potentially be an opportunity for your business inside. Okay, here comes the next and last part. It's T for threats. So this is where you're going to ask yourself, burnout, cash flow inconsistencies, over dependency on one offer. What are the threats inside of your business right now? So if you're someone that is finding issues where things are falling through the cracks, if you're having issues with following up with people, whatever the issue is, write it out, 2 minutes. Allow yourself to really just be honest. And the thing I have always said on this channel is like, I don't think that of things as failures. I don't even like to think of things as obstacles. I think of things as growth opportunities. I don't necessarily get excited when bad things happen, but when they do, I allow for myself to say, okay, how can I make sure that this doesn't happen again? What do I need to improve? So this is what you're going to do. Set your timer for 2 minutes for each one of those sections and just allow for yourself to write as much as you can based on what your type of business is. If you do find yourself stuck on any section, I'm going to challenge you to just really be honest about what is coming up for you in those areas because every business has either a strength, a weakness, an opportunity, or a threat. So, unless you have the anomaly of a business, chances are, which is not the case, something is not being addressed. And the reason why you want to do this is because it's going to help you of having the foundation to actually reflect on what's working inside of your business. And doing this will really also help you of understanding what needs to be simplified or not expanded going into the future year. Once you take the time to do all four of those steps, this is where you'll be able to see what are the real true missing pieces inside of your business, what is taking your energy and what's taking your capacity away to being able to push your business forward. And this is where you're going to really truly sit down and ask yourself, did my business support my life or did it consume it? And depending on where you are in the stage of your business, it's very common, I would say, for the first 2 to 3 years, it may feel as if it's consuming you. But if we don't understand what's actually happening now, then we're not able to make the changes necessary for the future. So I want for you to review, what was your workload per quarter? What were your busiest seasons? When did you feel the most clear or the most drained? Because when you take the time to do this, you'll be able to understand your capacity around specific times of the year. Inside of my business, I know that we do 75% of our events within fourth quarter. I find that when people don't take the time to understand their busy seasons, they can almost have this woe is me when things get slow. It may just be slow because in your area, there's specific seasons when people are needing your services. And what might happen is that it may open up an idea of like, okay, I know that these specific seasons are my busiest. How can I actually intentionally do excessive marketing leading into that season so that we can actually get more clients? Or it could be that I know that these specific seasons are slower. What can I do to re-engage my clients? Because your customers don't know how you solve all of their problems with what you do. But if we are just going with the flow, we are not a present to what is our workload? What are some opportunities to be able to increase our revenue without burning our team out or burning ourselves out? So you have to take the time to do this because the thing about running a business is truly understanding what is the capacity that you have with the team you have, with the resources you have, and the market that you're serving. And if you're finding that your goals don't stick, it's usually because they weren't aligned with how you actually work best. So we don't want to go into the next year without taking this step, because you can be making it a lot harder for you to actually grow. So let's recap it all. Your CEO reset will help you with making better decisions in your business. The end of year reset most entrepreneurs are skipping is on reviewing their expenses, checking their real profit margins, analyzing the demand in their business, doing an honest SWOT analysis, and assessing energy, not the effort that they're putting out there. So this is how you stop from winging it and start operating like a CEO and operator. And remember, clarity compounds faster than hustle ever will. I want to hear from you. Comment below and share one result from your 2025 review. It can be a surprise expense, your profit margins, or an offer that you're going to be cutting next year. Let's start to normalize CEOs talking about their numbers. And if you're ready for guided support, check out the strategy session link below. Until next time, peace.